In the grey, windswept waters of the North Sea, the French Navy's Frigate Bretagne cuts a steady path across choppy waves. Her mission during late September is not routine patrol. She is deployed to participate in NATO's Neptune Strike 25 to 30, exercise at a moment when tensions between Europe and Russia have reached their highest level in years. This large-scale drill is not just a show of force, it is a test of readiness in one of the most strategically sensitive maritime regions on the planet. The Bretagne is one of France's Frem-class multi-mission frigates. It was designed not only for surface combat, but also for advanced anti-submarine warfare, an increasingly vital skill as NATO navies monitor the movements of Russian submarines. The exercise, held from September 22nd to 26th, involves 13 NATO nations operating across the Mediterranean, Adriatic, North Sea and Baltic Sea. According to the ship's commander, Captain Nicholas Simon, these operations, in his words, bring together 13 NATO countries across 3 different seas. It's a way to integrate all NATO forces and train for high-level exercises. NATO itself describes the drill as a vigilance activity, a demonstration of Allied coordination involving more than 10,000 sailors, soldiers and airmen. For this phase of the exercise, the Bretagne sailed through the cold waters of the North Sea before heading north to cross the GIUK gap, the historic Greenland-Iceland United Kingdom passage. During the Cold War, this narrow corridor was regarded as a maritime choke point. Any Russian submarine heading from the Arctic toward the Atlantic usually passed through this route. Decades later, with renewed geopolitical rivalry, the passage remains a focal point for NATO surveillance. Its control is vital to protecting transatlantic shipping lanes and Europe's northern approaches. On the Bretagne's stern deck sits a piece of equipment that has become a signature tool in modern anti-submarine warfare, the Captas 4-toed sonar, known among sailors as the yellow fish. When deployed, this long, torpedo-shaped device is lowered into the sea by a cable that extends hundreds of meters behind the ship. Once at its operational depth, it listens for the faint acoustic traces of objects far beneath the waves, listening much deeper and farther than a ship's hull-mounted sensors can. Combined with the ship's torpedoes and its helicopter, the Captas 4 forms a 3-layered defense capable of hunting submarines across wide expanses of ocean. On board, Alexis, the head of the ship's MOLSM sector, oversees the deployment of this underwater system. He explains the process in his own words. To spearfish, we put the fish, the sonar, in the water. Once it is at a certain depth, it emits a noise that reverberates on the seabed. This noise comes back to the boat and is listened to by the sonar operators. It allows us to determine whether we are hearing marine mammals or an actual submarine. The analogy of spearfishing may sound simple, but the practice demands precision and constant attention. From the control room inside the frigate, operators monitor screens that display tiny patterns. Alexis describes how they interpret what they see. We have screens, and on these screens, echoes appear as small green dots. Our operators are trained to detect, based on the shape of these green squares, whether the signal comes from a submarine or is simply the contour of the seabed. Behind these words lies the heart of modern underwater detection, the ability to distinguish a real threat from background noise in one of the most challenging environments in military operations, the deep sea. Yet the Bretagne is not alone in this task. Perched on the aft flight deck is its airborne partner, the NH-90 Cayman Marine helicopter. Equipped with its own dipping sonar and capable of carrying Mu-90 lightweight torpedoes, the helicopter provides both speed and reach that the ship itself cannot match. Romain, the tactical coordinator for the NH-90 on board the frigate, explains the synergy. The frigate can also deliver weapons such as torpedoes, and it can detect underwater contacts. But the frigate is slower and has a shorter range in terms of listening capacity, so it uses its helicopter as a fast and advanced means to search farther away or to deliver weapons at a distance. During the exercise, this cooperation is rehearsed again and again. The helicopter hovers just meters above the rolling sea as crew members practice hoisting and winching drills. On deck, sailors in helmets and vests guide the aircraft, hand signals precise against the roar of rotor blades. Marines in combat gear patrol the ship's perimeters. Meanwhile, inside the bridge, navigators trace bearings with pencil and ruler on traditional paper charts, a deliberate reliance on analog methods which serve as a reliable backup in case electronic systems are jammed or disrupted. These scenes underscore an essential point. In modern naval operations, technology and human skill must work side by side. Advanced sonar and data links can extend a ship's senses, but it is the trained crew, the operators, engineers, and pilots who interpret that information and act upon it. Beyond the drills, the location of this exercise carries deep historical weight. The North Sea and the approaches to the GIUK gap have long been seen as maritime choke points. During the Cold War, NATO forces maintained a constant watch on Soviet submarines attempting to slip into the Atlantic. In recent years, as political tensions with Moscow have escalated and reports of undersea cable sabotage have emerged, this region has once again become a front line, though this time an invisible one, lying hundreds of meters beneath the surface. The deployment of the Bretagne and its participation in Neptune Strike 25 to 30 is therefore more than just a training event. It is part of a continuing effort by NATO to ensure that Europe's critical sea lanes, energy infrastructure, and undersea communication networks remain protected from potential threats. On board the ship, daily life during the exercise is a balance between routine and readiness. Sonar operators spend long hours scanning the screen for faint blips that might indicate a lurking submarine. Flight crews perform repeated takeoff and landing drills with the helicopter despite unpredictable North Sea weather. Technicians maintain the readiness of Mu-90 torpedoes and EXO-CET missile launchers. Each role, whether it is guiding a helicopter onto the deck or plotting a bearing on a chart, is part of the larger choreography required for coordinated defence. NATO officials emphasise that exercises like this serve a dual purpose: deterrence and reassurance. They signal to any potential adversary that Allied forces can and will coordinate to detect and respond to underwater threats. They also reassure member states that their critical maritime approaches are actively defended. The Bretagne itself is a product of years of Franco-European naval cooperation, a ship designed to operate seamlessly within an Allied fleet. Its participation, alongside US, British, German, Norwegian, and other NATO vessels, illustrates how the alliance integrates national capabilities into a single operational framework. For the sailors and officers on board, however, the focus is immediate and practical to ensure that all systems work as intended and that crews are prepared for any contingency. Exercises like Neptune Strike do not just test hardware, they build habits of communication, trust, and rapid response that would be essential in a real-world incident. In the wider geopolitical context, such vigilance is a reminder that Europe's security does not depend solely on armies on land or jets in the sky. Much of it rests on keeping the sea lanes open and the undersea domain monitored, a domain where potential threats can move undetected and where damage to a single cable or pipeline can have far-reaching consequences. As the Bretagne continues its passage toward the Norwegian Sea, towing its yellow-painted sonar behind it and launching its helicopter to sweep distant waters, it represents a modern form of naval watchfulness. It is a watchfulness that combines cutting-edge technology, disciplined crews, and multinational cooperation, the elements needed to guard Europe's northern approaches in an age of renewed strategic rivalry. For NATO commanders, these scenes send a clear message. In the contest for control beneath the waves, the alliance is determined not to be caught off guard. Exercises such as this are designed to ensure that, should a crisis arise, the tools and the teams are ready to act swiftly, decisively, and in unison. The story of the Bretagne on this exercise is thus not only about one ship. It is about the broader reality of a continent that must safeguard its waters and infrastructure in a world where threats can be silent and unseen. From the sonar operator interpreting green dots on a screen to the helicopter pilot ready to deploy a torpedo at a moment's notice, every link in this chain contributes to a collective shield beneath the surface of the sea. As dusk settles over the grey expanse of the North Sea and the frigate maintains her steady course, the image is one of calm professionalism. There is no drama, no visible confrontation, only the persistent, deliberate work of preparation. It is precisely this readiness, say NATO leaders, that forms the most effective deterrent. In the closing view of the Bretagne, cutting across the steel blue water with its Captus 4 sonar cable stretching out behind like a lifeline into the deep, we see a living example of the alliance's maritime vigilance. A reminder that in modern security, what lies unseen below the surface can be as decisive as what flies overhead or rolls on land.
Ouais, posé.
To spear fish, we put the fish with the sonar towed in the water. Once it is in the sea at a certain depth, it will emit a noise that will reverberate on the seabed. This noise will return to the boat, which will be listened to by the sonar operators and will allow us to determine whether we have mammals or a submarine.
Ce bruit va revenir vers le bateau qui va être écouté par les opérateurs sonars et permettre de déterminer si on a des mammifères ou un sous-marin.
We have screens, and on this screen, echoes appear. They are small green dots, and our operators are trained to detect, based on the shape of these green squares, whether it is a submarine or the seabed.
C'est la forme de ces carrés verts, si c'est un sous-marin ou si c'est des fonds marins.
The frigate can also deliver weapons such as torpedoes. It can also detect underwater contacts. However, the frigate will be slower. It will have a shorter range in terms of listening capacity, so it uses its helicopter as a fast and advanced means of searching far away or delivering weapons far away. And on this screen appear echoes. They are small green dots and are